She abandoned her children, my ex-husband Ryan declared from the witness stand, his voice breaking with perfectly rehearsed emotion as he painted me as the villain of our family's destruction. She left in the middle of the night, disappeared for 3 weeks, and didn't even call to see if her own children were alive. What kind of mother does that? His attorney smiled with the satisfaction of someone who believed the case was already won, while the judge looked at me with the particular pity reserved for women who've been publicly branded as failures. I sat silently at the defendant's table, my hands folded, my expression neutral, waiting for my attorney to connect her laptop to the courtroom's display system, because Ryan had forgotten one thing in his campaign to destroy me. I'm an audio engineer by profession, and for the last 2 years of our marriage, I'd been recording everything. 187 recordings. Every threat. Every locked door. Every whispered promise that no one would ever believe me. We were about to find out if that was true. Let me tell you about the marriage that looked perfect from the outside and the documentation that would eventually save my children. I married Ryan Hollister when I was 26. He was charming, successful, the kind of man mothers hope their daughters will find. A financial advisor with a corner office, a confident handshake, and a smile that made everyone feel like the most important person in the room. The control started so gradually I didn't recognize it. First, he helped me manage my finances. Then he suggested I leave my job at the recording studio to focus on family. Then he preferred I check with him before making plans with friends, buying groceries, leaving the house. By the time Emma was born, followed 2 years later by Lucas, I'd become a person I didn't recognize. Isolated, dependent, apologizing for existing while telling myself this was just what marriage looked like. It wasn't. But I didn't know that yet. The abuse was never physical, not in ways that left marks. Ryan was too smart for that. He knew that bruises could be documented, that physical violence could result in criminal charges. His control was more sophisticated: financial strangulation, emotional terrorism, and a campaign of gaslighting so complete that I'd begun to question my own reality. You're too sensitive. That never happened. You're imagining things. I never said that. You're crazy. After every incident, he'd convince me I'd misremembered, misheard, overreacted. The arguments I clearly recalled would be reframed as my failures. The promises he'd made would be denied. My perceptions became suspect, even to myself. Until I started recording. The first recording was almost accidental. I'm an audio engineer, or I was, before Ryan convinced me to quit. Sound is my profession, my language, the way I understand the world. When I couldn't trust my own memory anymore, I reached for the tool I knew best. A small voice recorder, hidden in my pocket during a conversation where Ryan promised, again, to let me visit my sister in Portland. Of course you can go, sweetheart. You know I support your relationships. The next day, when I mentioned booking a flight, he denied ever agreeing. Called me delusional. Accused me of lying to create conflict. But I had the recording. I played it back alone, in my car, the only place I had privacy. And for the first time in years, I knew I wasn't crazy. He'd said yes. I'd heard it. It was real. I started recording everything. The collection grew over 2 years. 187 recordings, totaling approximately 94 hours of audio. Not constant surveillance, I wasn't trying to catch him in minor inconsistencies. I recorded the conversations that mattered, discussions about finances, agreements about the children, incidents where he threatened or manipulated. I recorded him saying I could access our joint accounts because he removed my name for tax purposes. I recorded him telling our daughter Emma that mommy was sick in the head and shouldn't be trusted. I recorded him promising to destroy me if I ever tried to leave, detailing how his lawyer friends would make sure I never saw the kids again. I recorded him changing the locks while I was at a doctor's appointment, then calling the police when I tried to enter my own home. I recorded him saying the words that would eventually echo through a courtroom: "No one will believe you. I'm the successful one. I'm the normal one. You're just the crazy wife who couldn't handle reality." The breaking point came on a Tuesday in March. Emma was 7, Lucas was 5. I'd been documenting for 23 months, waiting, building a case I wasn't sure I'd ever have the courage to use. Then Lucas got sick at school. The nurse called my cell phone, still in my name, the one thing Ryan hadn't managed to control. I rushed to pick him up, took him to the pediatrician, focused entirely on my child. When I tried to bring him home, the front door wouldn't open. Ryan had changed the locks again. This time, he'd packed bags for the children and left them on the porch. A note was taped to the door: "Your stuff is at your sister's. Don't come back." I called him. He didn't answer. I called again. Voicemail. I stood on the porch of my own home, holding my feverish son, unable to enter. Neighbors peeked through curtains. I could imagine what they were thinking: poor Ryan, finally getting free of his unstable wife. That's when I realized he was executing a plan. A plan to make me look exactly like what he'd been calling me for years. The crazy woman who couldn't function. The unfit mother who'd been kicked out of her own home. And if I reacted the way he expected, screaming, pounding on the door, calling the police in a state of hysteria, I'd be proving his narrative right. So I didn't react. I took Lucas to my sister's house, got him settled with medicine and comfort, and then I called a lawyer. The next 3 weeks were engineered by Ryan to look like abandonment. He told Emma and Lucas that mommy had left and didn't want to be found. He blocked my phone number, deleted my emails, refused to let me see the children despite having no legal custody order. I documented everything. Every denied visit request, sent through certified mail after he blocked my calls. Every time I appeared at the school to see my children, only to be turned away because Ryan had informed them I was a danger. Every message I sent through third parties that went unanswered. I wasn't abandoning my children. I was being systematically prevented from accessing them while Ryan manufactured evidence of the abandonment he accused me of later. The recordings captured all of it, including several calls he did answer accidentally, where he explicitly outlined his strategy. By the time this goes to court, it'll look like she just walked out. 3 weeks of no contact. What kind of mother does that? He was speaking to his attorney. He didn't know I'd forwarded my calls to a recording system, or that I was capturing everything automatically. The custody hearing was scheduled for May. Ryan's attorney was expensive, aggressive, and confident. They'd filed an emergency motion for full custody, citing my abandonment and mental instability. They gathered statements from neighbors who witnessed my erratic behavior, the incidents Ryan had engineered to make me look unhinged. My attorney, Catherine Torres, had reviewed all 187 recordings before the hearing. "This is the most comprehensive documentation of coercive control I've ever seen," she told me. "But we need to use it strategically. Too much at once will overwhelm the court. We need to tell a story." "What story?" "The truth. But organized so they can't look away." The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected. Judge Martha Reynolds presided, a woman with gray hair and a reputation for thoroughness. Ryan sat at the petitioner's table with his expensive lawyer, wearing the concerned parent expression he'd perfected over years of manipulation. I sat at the defendant's table, the recording library loaded on my attorney's laptop, my future. And my children's futures hanging on what happened in the next few hours. Ryan's attorney went first. The narrative was exactly what I'd expected: a troubled wife who'd grown increasingly unstable, a devoted husband who'd tried to help her, a breaking point where she simply vanished, leaving her children without explanation. She abandoned her children, Ryan declared from the witness stand. She left in the middle of the night, disappeared for 3 weeks, and didn't even call to see if her own children were alive. His voice cracked at precisely the right moment. His hands trembled with manufactured grief. "What kind of mother does that?" he asked the judge, his eyes glistening with tears. His attorney smiled. Judge Reynolds looked at me with pity. Then Catherine stood. "Your Honor, we have evidence that directly contradicts Mr. Hollister's testimony." Objection. Ryan's attorney was on his feet immediately. "What evidence?" "We received no prior disclosure. These recordings were obtained during the marriage, in a single-party consent state, and are fully admissible. We provided notice of their existence in our response filing 2 weeks ago." The judge reviewed her notes. "I have that filing." Objection overruled. "You may proceed." Catherine connected her laptop to the courtroom's display system. The petitioner claims his wife abandoned her children. The truth is far more disturbing. We have 187 recordings documenting a systematic campaign of coercive control spanning more than 2 years. She pressed play. Recording 1, Ryan explaining to a friend how he detrained me to ask permission before leaving the house. "You just have to be consistent. She knows now that going out without checking with me first causes problems. It took about a year, but she's finally getting it." Recording 7, Ryan telling Emma that mommy was broken inside and that daddy had to make all the decisions. "Your mommy isn't like other mommies, sweetheart. Her brain doesn't work right. That's why we have to be patient with her." Recording 23, Ryan threatening to take the children if I ever tried to leave. "You think anyone would give custody to a woman who hasn't worked in 7 years? Who has no money, no job, no proof of anything? My lawyer will bury you. You'll be lucky to get supervised visits." Recording 41, Ryan admitting he'd changed the locks specifically to prevent me from entering the house. "She's not getting back in. I already called a locksmith. By tonight, she'll be standing outside like the pathetic person she is, and everyone will see exactly what I've been dealing with." By recording 54, Ryan's attorney asked for a recess. The judge denied it. "We're going to hear this evidence now, counselor. Your client has made serious allegations about child abandonment. This testimony directly contradicts that narrative." Catherine continued. Recording 67, Ryan explicitly blocking my access to the children. If she tries to call, don't answer. If she comes to the school, tell them she's a threat. I want 3 weeks of documented no contact before the hearing. Recording 89, Ryan coaching his mother on what to tell the court about my mental state. Just say she's always been unstable. Mood swings, paranoia, whatever sounds believable. The judge won't verify it. Recording 112, Ryan telling me, in explicit terms, that no one would ever believe my version of events. You're just the crazy wife, Melissa. That's all you've ever been. That's all anyone will ever see. I've made sure of that. The courtroom was silent. The final recording was the most damaging. It was from 2 days before I was locked out, a conversation Ryan had with his attorney, apparently unaware that I'd configured our home system to automatically record all calls. The plan is simple. I change the locks, claim she left voluntarily, and document 3 weeks of no contact. By the time it goes to court, it looks like textbook abandonment. She'll be too hysterical to explain herself, and my witnesses will confirm she's been unraveling for months. His attorney's voice responded, and the kids will support your story? Emma will say whatever I tell her. Lucas is too young to understand. This is airtight. Catherine paused the recording. Your Honor, the petitioner didn't experience abandonment. He manufactured it. He created a situation designed to make my client look like an unfit mother while simultaneously preventing her from accessing her children. She presented the documented evidence of my attempts to contact the children during those 3 weeks. Certified letters. Messages through third parties. Appearances at the school that were blocked. My client never abandoned her children. She was systematically prevented from seeing them as part of a coordinated campaign to deprive her of custody. The judge called a recess. When we returned, Ryan's attorney attempted damage control. The recordings were taken out of context. His client had been under stress. The interpretation was unfair. Judge Reynolds listened without expression. Then she spoke. I've presided over family court for 23 years. I've seen contested custody cases of every variety. But I have never witnessed such comprehensive evidence of parental manipulation. She turned to Ryan. Mr. Hollister, you sat in my courtroom and accused your wife of abandoning her children. You manufactured tears. You described a mother who vanished without explanation. And all the while, you knew that you had engineered that disappearance. That you had locked her out of her home, blocked her access to her children, and documented the absence you created. Ryan's face had gone pale. This is not contested custody. This is abuse. And the court will respond accordingly. The ruling was immediate and comprehensive. Emergency custody was awarded to me, effective immediately. Ryan was ordered to have no unsupervised contact with the children until a full psychological evaluation could be completed. The home, my home, was to be vacated by Ryan within 48 hours. The judge also referred the case to the district attorney's office for review of potential criminal charges, including custodial interference and filing false statements with the court. Ryan's expensive attorney sat in stunned silence. The strategy that had seemed airtight was destroyed by 187 recordings and a wife who learned to document what she could and prove. The aftermath took months to fully resolve. Ryan fought the custody ruling, of course. He filed appeals, claimed the recordings were illegally obtained, tried to reframe himself as the victim of an elaborate setup. None of it worked. The evidence was too comprehensive, too damning, too clearly authentic. The final custody arrangement gave me primary physical and legal custody. Ryan received limited supervised visitation, visits that would be monitored for any attempt to manipulate the children or undermine my parenting. The criminal charges resulted in a plea deal, probation, mandatory counseling for coercive control, and a permanent restraining order that gave me legal recourse if he ever tried to contact me outside of custody exchanges. Emma and Lucas are doing well now. It's been 3 years since the hearing. Emma is 10, old enough to understand some of what happened, though I've been careful about what I share. Lucas is 8, less aware of the history but sensitive to the changes in our family structure. Therapy has helped. For all of us. The children see their father, briefly, at scheduled visits. They come home with confused feelings, love for a parent who's hurt them, anger they don't fully understand, the complicated grief of children whose family didn't survive. I don't speak badly about Ryan to them. Whatever he's done to me, he's still their father. They'll form their own judgments as they grow older. The recordings saved me. I think about that sometimes, how close I came to losing everything. How perfectly Ryan had engineered my destruction. How completely he'd controlled the narrative until the moment my evidence began to play. No one will believe you. He said that so many times. He believed it completely. And in most cases, he would have been right. Women leave abusive marriages every day and lose custody to articulate, successful-looking men who've spent years crafting their public images. The courts are full of cases where financial power and social credibility overwhelm the truth. I had something most women don't: professional expertise in capturing audio, the foresight to use it, and the patience to build a case over 2 years. I was lucky. And I hate that luck was required. I work with domestic violence organizations now. Specifically, I teach documentation techniques. How to safely record conversations in single-party consent states. How to preserve evidence without alerting an abuser. How to build the kind of case that can withstand the expensive lawyers and social manipulation that controlling partners deploy. Not everyone can do what I did. The risks of recording are real. Some states require all-party consent, and discovery can escalate abuse. But for those who can document safely, the recordings can be transformative. Your word against his becomes something more. The gaslighting loses its power when you can prove what was actually said. Ryan's mother called me once, after everything was settled. "You destroyed him," she said, her voice shaking with fury. "He was a good man, a good father, and you ruined his life with your secret recordings." I thought about all the things I could say. The years of control. The terror of being locked out of my own home. The children he'd used as weapons. Instead, I said, he destroyed himself. I just made sure there was evidence. She hung up. The 187 recordings are archived now. Stored on multiple drives, in multiple locations, with multiple people who know where to find them if anything ever happens to me. Not because I'm paranoid, because I've learned that documentation is the only defense against people who are willing to lie. I hope I never need them again. But if I do, they're there. Proof that what happened was real. Proof that I didn't abandon my children. I fought for them with every tool I had. No one will believe you. That was Ryan's favorite weapon. The certainty that his version of reality would always prevail because he was charming and successful and I was just the crazy wife. He was wrong. Not because the truth automatically wins, it doesn't, but because I made believing me unavoidable. I created evidence that couldn't be denied, documentation that couldn't be gaslit away, a record that spoke for itself. 187 recordings. 94 hours of proof. One custody ruling that gave my children back. That's what it took to be believed. And if my story helps one other woman understand that she's not crazy, that documentation is power, that there's a way out of the trap, then every hour of planning, every moment of fear, every recording made in secret was worth it. You're not crazy. You're not making it up. And with enough evidence, they will believe you.